The Saint Mort Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Saint Mort Show. It's kind of like a weird round table this week, so
Cold open? Shit. You don't even fucking clap? Something?
Nope, nothing.
All right.
So I'm here with the...
Can we swear?
Yes.
Okay. Surprise, motherfucker!
We're here with the combined
Surprise, motherfucker!
creative group that makes up
Surprise, motherfucker!
HeroChest,
Mr. Falcon,
and Effin Comics, and Moses, who just kind of works here sometimes. Oh, I didn't know he was.
Yeah, he's going to be helping with HeroChest.
Okay, well there you go. So it's all the
They're gonna
crew
use my
of
chest.
HeroChest. It's going to be a model of Moses.
It's a very heroic chest, it's true.
We're gonna pack things off of it. It's gonna be the landing zone. But everything on the chest. All right, put it in the box. Why is it so heavy?
Including a picture of the chest, so everyone who gets a box can see the chest that this was measured on.
Mark gets one every month. We have to have subtitles. And
He's going to hear this, just so
I
you know.
know. He won't disagree.
Fair enough.
So, tell us a little bit about this HeroChest project that you guys have been working
Talk
on.
about that for an hour.
Okay,
Not.
or not, you can just interrupt and not let us answer the question,
I expect
actually.
a lot of that.
All right, fair enough. Again, so I recently, I guess not really that recently, but a few months ago started, kind of got introduced to the subscription box world, Loot Crate and Nerd Block and that stuff. And I was like, I thought it was a neat idea, and I started really looking to see what was out there, trying to see what kind of cool ones were out there. And I noticed really quickly that while there were a lot of nerd geek culture boxes, there were none specific to the comic world. Like some of them kind of dabbled, especially like Nerd Block really kind of dabbles in that world. They kind of say that they'll send you a lot of comic extraneous stuff, but not comics per se. And so that was percolating in my head. And the next day, I was talking to a buddy of mine from a video game I play, and I commented on comics. And he had said that when he was in college, he read, but he stopped reading when he went home because there's not a comic shop within 6 hours of his house. Now he lives out in the Midwest, and apparently that's not that unusual in certain areas of the country. Like you can be places where they just don't exist. And just something like in the middle of that conversation, just clicked in the back of my head, like, well, that would be a great market for a subscription box company about comics. And being who I am, when I come up with an idea like that, well, why should I let somebody else do it? I'll do it myself. And I talked to my wife, who is not actually an avid comic person. She reads one comic, Mouse Guard, and that's only been for the last couple years. Basically when
I think 2008 is when it started.
Something like that.
They've had 4 miniseries.
Yeah, so she's been reading Mouse Guard almost from the start, not quite from. I think when issue 3 came out is when I showed it to her, and she thought that was cool, and so I went back and picked her up, and I've been getting it for her ever since. Yeah. Strangely, I know
it's a very
that.
specific.
It is. It really is.
It was the first 2 were like action oriented. The third one was like, oh, hey, shit, what happened to mice? I was gonna say people.
But so I told her about the idea, and she's like, yeah, why wouldn't you do that? That's a great idea, and one of the things, so there were multiple things going on in my head there. It's like, I like the idea of a subscription box where, you don't know exactly what you're going to get, but, it's part of the fun of the surprise of, hey, what did I get this month? But I also like the idea of, doing something to say, hey, for those people that can't get to a comic shop every week, let's give you some of that experience. So as example, in the box right here, where we're at right now with it is we're saying every month you're going to get a trade, 3 comics, and then like some fun stuff. Like either we did a beta box just recently. We sent it out to a couple of the early Kickstarter people to just get a feel for what it would be like and get some feedback to see if we need to change anything. And that one, the idea was like the extraneous non-comic stuffs where we did Avengers silicone ice trays and a surprise box Marvel bobblehead. But you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
A bouncy eyeball.
Oh yeah, well, and then that's the promo gear. So one thing we also do is so the idea in the box every month when you get it. So say it shows up at your house on the second week of the month.
Okay.
Everything that was in that box came out the month before. So as an idea, we're starting now. So if I said the box that you're going to get on, we'll call it August 8th. It'll show up on your doorstep. Everything that was in that box came out in the month of July.
Yeah.
Because that way we have the ability to order it, put it together, and shipped. And we'll always do that. Nothing will be older than that. I mean, if there's something older than that, it'll be only slightly, and there'll be a reason for it. Like we want it to be as up to date as possible.
Yeah.
And the other thing that will be in the box is every piece of promotional material that you would have gotten in that month, if you would walk into a store every week, will also be in that box. Now it's free of charge. We're not factoring that into the retail value of the box or anything.
Like
it's just the comic shop news is the posters, the little what are the 5x8
cards.
The little index cards that talk about what's going on.
The checklists.
Actually, I'm putting together a Beta Box 1.5. I actually finished putting it together today for a couple people.
Them Gamma boxes.
Oh, Gamma. Okay, we can go with that. But now I feel like if I'm going to do that, I should have put a Hulk book in there.
Duh.
Yeah, fine. But and part of the reason I did it is like we had a couple other people we wanna send it out to instead of just some of our Kickstarter people, but actually some people who talk about these things online, and get a little more buzz going on out there. And one of the books that was in the first box was sold out. So we can't get more of it. So we're like, okay, we can't just recreate that box. So let's update it and say, well, okay, if I'm building it as of today, I can shift that calendar, right? Yeah. So, as an example, and today being Batman Day, all the promotional masks and things like that came out, and the free issue of Detective that they put out and all that. So all of that's going to be in the box because if you came in the store, you would have gotten it.
Yeah.
So we got to update it, and I actually think the Gamma box. I'll go with that. The Gamma box actually I think is actually slightly better
than the beta
box because it's going to have cooler promo stuff in it. Because the other one we put out, well, I think it's kind of cool, and it had the bouncy eyeball for Original Sin. Almost all of the promo stuff that came out in that month was all Original Sin.
Yeah.
And the two of our three people we sent the beta box to kind of commented on it, like, there's a lot. It's all Original Sin, and I happen to have communication with those people, so yeah. I was able to say, well, that's what that's what was really being promoted, and they were like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. I'm like, and now I will say, it wasn't intentional this way, but the all three people that got the beta box are actually relatively new to comics and have never really gone to comic stores, so they, like all three of them. One of the things that was in that one is Marvel put out a promo book. It looks just like a comic book. They called it Young Guns, and all it was basically samples of all the art for the Young Guns promotion they're doing this summer with all the new artists.
All right.
And all three of them, they all did unboxing videos for us, and all three of them, when they got to that, were like, "Oh, what's this? There's no write up."
Yeah.
Because in the box we do a full write up on each of the books and why they're in there. Like here's why we think it's worthwhile. Here's a general synopsis. For the trade, there's a section that specifically said here's what you would need to know to read this. We try and make sure that everything in there is either a number one or a good jumping on point. We're not just going to throw you into the middle of a story, because what good is that to anybody? So as an example, the trade we put into the beta box, actually, and the Gamma box, we're keeping it because we like the trade, was the Hell on Earth for Superman.
Okay.
And, so that has a pretty good little write-up, because there's some stuff you need to know to jump into that story, because it started, issue 16 or, issue 16 in the runs for the New 52. So there's some stuff that happened to the character. So I give you a brief synopsis of here's what you need to know.
You basically gave him like the opening crawl from Star Wars for that.
Pretty
comic.
much. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly. I think I basically said in that one, okay, Superman, what's been going on?
Superman's from Krypton. Right. And go.
Well, I don't. Obviously, I don't go. I don't go over the hey, everyone on the planet should kind of know this stuff. But
so he's not the last son anymore.
Well, that's true. But
there was Exploding.
There was Exploding. Boom, boom. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. Boom. But always. Boom. Anyone?
I have no idea.
Babylon 5. Come on.
Star Trek.
Work.
Oh no! Hey,
controversial.
How many times am I going to say in this? That's what I really want to know.
That's fine.
We can have a counter in the corner on the screen.
Oh, that'd be great.
For the audio podcast?
For the audio podcast, yeah. Just hear a clicker. There'll be no number, just a clicker.
Where will they be listening to the podcast? Likely on the computer. Hook it up.
So
yeah, where was it? But I point out that there had been a lot of creatures attacking Metropolis that appear to be creatures left over from Krypton, but there was no explanation, because you kind of need to know that going in. I mentioned that Supergirl is recent to the planet. She's not assimilating very well. because you need to know that for hell, just little thing. I don't. Again, I'm not trying to go these giant synopses, but
nobody
you
can
need
understand her
what you
accent.
need to know to pick up the book and enjoy it. And then we kind of go into this. We call it the "Why We Think It's Awesome" the section, and then we kind of give it to you. Give it that in that trade.
What's kind of cool is it makes me think of like back in the days when you would go to like a Blockbuster or a mom and pop's video store, and they had the. This employee recommends this, and this employee recommends
to some degree.
It's essentially you're sending a box of like, here's some shit that we think is worth your time to read.
Yeah, that's actually one of the lines we use a lot in the description on the Kickstarter is worth the read.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of it. It's not just we're not just picking, hey, what can we make the most profit margin on? The whole point of it is it's a curated box.
And a lot of people seem to be commenting that your box versus like a loot box or a lot of those other ones actually seems like it's closer to what you're paying than what you're getting. Like I've seen people who get their was it loot box or woot box?
Loot crate.
Loot crate, whatever it is, where they canceled after like 3 or 4 months because like I'm paying X amount, but I feel like I'm literally just getting, well, here's the shit that we have left over. Like let's just mail them the garbage.
That's for the reason why it's going to be within a month. It's new. It's I don't want to say it's happening. It's now. There's such cliches, but it basically is. It's the newest stuff that you should be reading or could be reading if you want to experience something new.
And you would think that this is something that publishers would want to kind of get involved with because it's getting their issue 1s out, especially for a lot.
Sure, but Will's going to be the chief curator, and I know he's unlikely to be influenced by anybody else's opinion.
Oh, and I'm I'm saying like
that in a nice
That was the
way.
nicest way to say that.
But I think like if you were a comic book company and you're like you're realizing that this new book of yours that you're taking a chance with is actually getting a bunch of readers because some guys in PA are sending boxes out to people with issue 1 because they think it's a good book that they should be reading. There's no reason that a publisher shouldn't be going, hey, I'm in full support of these guys doing this because they're going to see.
And that is something I and my wife have talked about at length. And we want to be clear that. So let's just go back to one of the things you're saying about the value. A couple things we've gotten back through the Kickstarter commentary is that our box is a little pricey compared to like a Loot Crate or Nerd Block. It's because they're about the $20 price range and we're higher than that. But we're also the amount of retail value that we're putting into the box is also higher than theirs. We're averaging that we're expecting right now from everything we've figured out. The average box is going to contain, in actual retail value, anywhere between $50 and $55 worth of material, roughly. And sometimes it's going to be, it'll never be less than that, but it'll occasionally be more than that.
And the beta, you calculated at 51?
Yeah, the beta came in at 51. The Gamma's coming in at 53. And again, that's not including any of the promotional material. That's we consider that a wash. That's you wouldn't pay for it if you went to a store. It doesn't factor into the value of the box. I just threw air quotes on a.
Yeah,
that's fine.
That was good. Or as we call it, the bunnies of sarcasm.
Do you have any idea how many times I've nodded? As you can see, oh yeah, he's right about that. And I just give a thumbs up to no one.
So we've heard some stuff about that, but I get Loot Crate and Nerd Block. I get both of them, and I actually enjoy them. And I've been there too, where I look at it and go, did I really get my money's worth on that? Like, I don't know that I did, And I've had boxes where I'm like, that's an awesome box. I've had boxes where I'm like, that was okay, whatever. I'm not going to bash either one of them. I think they both do what they do.
Right into the trash on those days.
I sweep off the desk.
I will say that I've never had a box that didn't have at least something I thought was cool in it. I'm not going to bash those guys. I think for what they are, they do a great job. They do what they do. But it's been very clear.
I'm going to say they're a bunch of scrubs compared to HeroChest.
Thank you. But here's one thing I will notice that having been married, there have been times where it has been very obvious that, hey, the reason I've gotten these things is because someone's trying to promote something and they probably gave it to them.
Yeah.
And I don't ever want HeroChest to be, oh, well, I'm just a shill for Marvel this month. I mean, if especially if an indie, if they come to me and say, hey, we've got a new thing, we want you to check it out and maybe put it in your box, I'll look at it. I'll absolutely look at it. I'll check it out, and if I think it's good, great. I want to promote indies. One of the things that my wife and I agreed on really early about the box is that, there will be Marvel and DC stuff in it. Every box will have at least one indie book in it.
Yeah.
Because one of the things about this is trying to bring new stuff to people. And, Marvel and DC have giant media arms. Like, if they want to promote something, they don't need me to do it. But there's as an example, Xenoscope. I actually spoke to them at Philadelphia Con, and they're really interested in this. Like the guy I talked to over there was like, "Hey, that's a really awesome idea. I think that's great. If you get it up and going, absolutely contact us." Now they also happen to be local, so that's really handy for us. But they flat out said, no contract or anything. I'm not speaking out of house, but they basically said, "Yeah, we'd absolutely love to work with you on stuff like that. If it's something." Now I have to look. Most of Xenoscope stuff doesn't fit into our PG-13 motif because we don't know. We don't know how old the person getting the box is going to be. So I'm not. They're books while I'm personally big fans of, I'm not putting in that box.
So they won't be getting like old heavy metal issues.
No. No. There's
doesn't fit the new criteria and too many boobies.
Right.
I've never used that phrase before.
Boobies or too many?
Too many of them.
That's a thing. Well, actually, I've got a great example. There's a book out right now. It's an indie book. That's an amazing book. It's called Uber. Right? I don't know. Yeah.
I guess you won't be sending a lot of Saga out either.
No, Saga certainly. Saga would be on the verge, and that's because there is nudity in it.
This is Saga we're talking about?
This is Saga we're talking about. That's such an in-joke that no one's going to get.
That was for me.
But so the thing about Uber, great art, great story, but it's really gory. It's about Nazis, and there's nudity galore in the book.
Yeah.
I'm not sending that out.
They gotta write that down.
It is.
It's Avatar.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good book. It's if the Nazis had actually had superpowered super soldiers, they won. And here's the modern world
Now,
decades after they've won, and they're still enforcing the war. That's not what it is.
No.
What is it?
Not at all. It's if they prevent it. How does the war end? So because I actually read it. It's
Wait, what book is this? I thought we were on Saga.
No, I just made a reference to Saga.
I got lost.
It just threw
Uber's
everything
not
off
in the
track.
modern era.
No.
It's still in World War II era, late 40s.
Yeah.
Ish.
And you run a comic shop. Just go you.
Can we cut?
Put the chair down.
But that's an example of actually, and that's funny when I talk to my wife about where do we sit on that. That's the book I use as example of. While it's a great book, I would never put it in the box. We've talked about if the Kickstarter goes on, and we get enough membership. One of the things we're thinking about doing is creating an option for subscribers to say, hey, check this box to be available for R-rated material, and then we can, if you're over X age, you can check this box, and then it opens us up to some of these other books. But until we have a certain amount of readership, we can't get that. Like, we can't have, hey, I need 10 issues with this and 2 boxes with this. I need it to maintain some level of uniformity until we hit a certain mass.
Now, if you're one of those people sitting in the Midwest, where we're talking about, where there's like no comic shops within like a 6-hour drive, and you're seeing books and you're reading issue 1s that you really like and you want an issue 2, is there a way that they can, are you planning a way for them to reach out to you and say, I really love this book.
Absolutely.
Can you make sure that I keep getting
So if you are a subscriber, and like all the subscription books, the idea is you subscribe and you subscribe for a certain amount, and basically when you want to be done, you come in and tell us, I'm done. But as long as you are a subscriber, you'll be able to go onto your account on the site and say flat out, just as an example, it's funny because I've been using this as the example since we came up with the idea. Is if I've been a giant Moon Knight fan forever.
Okay.
In fact, actually, I had a hiatus in my reading for a while, and what brought me back was when Moon Knight got restarted
before Bendis.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that run. Well, they just restarted a Moon Knight story arc again. So if we had said, hey, this box had Moon Knight #1 in it, and you came to me and said, dude, that was an awesome story, you'd have the ability to go on to your account and say, I really like this book, start sending it to me every month when it comes out. And
so basically they get the package, they get the HeroChest for the month plus.
Right. So we were basically saying, I believe we're saying it's going to be 20% off cover. You can add titles to your box, not supplant titles, but add titles to your box at 20% off of cover, and we will put it in your box every month when it comes out. You'll only be charged if it comes out, because as we all know in the comic industry, things sometimes will go, hey, we just skipped a month.
Oh, you mean like Kick-Ass?
Yeah,
we said month, not years.
But so and if it doesn't come out, you don't get charged. And the idea there is that we're going to say for every certain amount of titles you add, we'll probably have to have a shipping edition just because weight. But I think right now we're figured out that at the base level we're at, we're probably going to be able to add 4 or 5 books before we have to even touch shipping.
Yeah.
Roughly. Obviously weight matters, but we've got that built in. We're also talking about, and actually because some of the feedback from the beta, one of the things I was just talking to Tom about today, because this is kind of sort of Tom's part of it.
I'm Tom.
He's he's going to be kind of running that side of it when people order. We're actually thinking, instead of waiting for it to be, originally the idea was you'd only be able to get books that we have put in the box, like you can continue getting things. But we're kind of expanding the idea to why wouldn't we say, hey, if you liked Moon Knight #1, you would probably like this other book by the same writer. Why wouldn't we let them get that book?
Allow the customers to pick through the entire previews catalog and say, I want this, that, and the other thing, as far as the comics are concerned.
Right.
Now, do you see? I'm assuming that in the long run, the box, there's going to still be that main HeroChest box, or do you see, as the months go on and you kind of learn more and more about your subscribers, that the boxes are going to start to become slightly more individualized?
In all likelihood, they're going to probably maintain a uniformity,
a
level of uniformity. We are talking about, and again, a lot of this is still up in the air because we know we want a lot of feedback. Right, we don't know how it's going to go, and we're bringing in feedback from the people that are interested, and we are talking and like I said, one of the reasons we came up with this thing today about maybe we should let them get whatever is because all three people. It's funny, the one thing that all three people that got the beta box agreed on, and it's something we didn't even ask. They all just volunteered it independently, and they don't know each other, which is what I thought was funny. All three independently said what would have been great is if you had a section in your descriptions that said, if you like this, you should also read this. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. We should add that. So, and that's what kind of snowballed us into this idea of, well, why should it just be you can order what I like? It should be, you're part of the point is I'm curating a box, because I've been reading since I was 8 years old.
It stems from a theory that I've always had, which is that there is a comic book out there for everybody. It's just a matter of finding out that person's taste.
Yeah.
If they like horror movies, here's some Walking Dead for you.
And that's the fun of the box. It is a blind box service, and you get exposed to things that maybe you wouldn't have picked on your own.
Yeah.
And the whole idea is, I like the tagline Will came up with before, it's a comic shop experience in a box. So one of the things that happens here at the store is people come in like, oh, I like Moon Knight, and all of a sudden Will has a list that is 70 titles thick.
Let's not go into that.
A book leads to another book. Sometimes you follow a writer, sometimes you follow an artist, sometimes you follow a character from team to team. And you go from reading 2 or 3 books to 10 or 12.
Well, and I think you've seen even there's days where I come in where I've had a decent paycheck where I just walk around the store and grab all of the issue 1s that I see because why not? Give these issue 1s a shot, and 99% of the time I don't text you and say, hey, add this book to my list. But every once in a while there's one where I read it and I go, well, I'm really glad I grabbed that issue 1. I want to see where this story continues.
Right.
That's the beauty of serialized storytelling.
Right, and that's actually one of the reasons. One of the strengths we add, I think, even to experienced, comic people, not just people new in the industry, but people who are either coming back to it or avid collectors. One of the things we think we provide for those kind of readers is that instead of having to shoot in the dark to go, hey, is this any good? Well, that's what we're doing for you. We're saying, hey, this is, this has every indication that it should be good. Now, obviously, when I'm choosing these things, I got to choose these books 3 months before they come out. The likelihood of me having had it in my hand and read the individual book is low. But as
writers and
right,
artists,
and there's a lot of, if you know how to dig, there's a lot of information about it, especially new books that are coming out. There's a lot of information, and multiple indies have flat out told me if they were interested, if they were going to put a #1 on a box, they'd get me at least a script, something that I could kind of read, and get it, because the indies are more likely to have people that I've never heard of,
that's what the curation notes are for.
Right, that's what the curation notes are for.
Here's why this went into the box.
And I wrote the curation notes. Well, I can talk about it because they all have their boxes now. It's actually posted up on our blog, what was in the books that were in the beta box. So I already talked about the Superboy Hell on Earth, or Superman Hell on Earth trade paperback. But the 3 comics were Legendary Star-Lord #1, and I talked about that one. And the reason that was in there is I happen to be a Star-Lord fan. I fully admit that, but it was topical because the movie's coming out, and Humphreys wrote it. Okay. Humphreys is an amazing writer. He's
former guest of the show.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome. But Humphreys is an amazing
to promote
writer.
his animal fucking book.
Fucking book.
I'm not even sure I want
Our love is real.
Yeah, that
one. Remember that one free comic book day party where I sold all of your leftover copies?
Did you read that, Tom?
I own it.
Yeah.
It's
When
great.
somebody banged a crystal in the end. That was the really great part. It made the dog thing look, at least he's metal.
So I kind of want to go now.
You picked him.
But here's the thing about him is writing. Now we're not talking about.
His name is Humphrey.
Wow, guys, come on. Let's reel this back in. Wow, I'm gone.
That's how it goes.
You're killing me.
Serious dick joke. Everything falls apart.
I remember when I had him on the show, my first question was like, which one would you fuck? And then my answer...
It's funny you asked me, Matt. As part of my research for this project.
Well, because he was like, I don't even know how to answer that question. He's like, I'm surprised no one's asked me that in advance. I said, well, in my opinion...
How does that not
my opinion, it would be an animal because a plant or a crystal fucks you. Like...
I have nothing to add.
I'm just gonna steer this back to the conversation.
All right, so back to the conversation that way.
So
we took a little detour
about Humphreys, and then sadly, I'm going to finish my thought about said writer. But
love you, Sam.
Once they're plant fucking,
he's not. I mean, he's not like a giant name in the industry. He's really not. If you're into comics and you really pay attention, you know who he is.
Yeah,
but like, if you're, hey, I've read 5 comics in my life, you have no idea who this guy is. You know. But he has a very dark, gritty writing style, which is good for the kind of persona that Star-Lord is, that Peter Quill is. But he also has the ability to have that gritty kind of feel while still maintaining a level of amusing. He has that dark sense of humor, and it fits a character like Peter Quill because he's an anti-hero. It's what he is. The guy. Let's face it, Peter Quill's a dick.
So it's not like when, like, say, I remember a big issue for Tom and I when I was pretty early on in the reading comics was when Kevin Smith stepped up to do a Batman story.
That would have been in the box.
And couldn't have avoided enough Kevin Smith-isms that weren't really necessary to a Batman story.
Right. Oh, you're talking about, yes, that would not have been in the... I actually didn't care about. But I was going way... Like, if you go even further, when he first broke into comics, you know, I probably would have put that in because I happen to be a fan of Kevin Smith, and I think, you know, and I know that he has a deep and abiding love for the industry. Like,
his early Daredevil stuff,
Daredevils and Green Arrow stuff was amazing. I think he got a little too into being Kevin Smith on the Batman book, my opinion.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, it's nice that you have someone.
Miller moments.
It's nice that you have someone like Humphreys who has his own style, but he also knows the appropriate place to put that style.
So that was one of the books in the box. You know, and as I mentioned, sorry.
Outcasting.
Oh yeah. So Grayson #1 was in there. Great starting point. One of my theories is that Dick Grayson is probably one of the longest-lasting, most prolific names in DC Comics. If you think about who's been around the longest, other than the Trinity, it's him. Like, he's been around forever. He's been in more super teams than anyone else. He's been with Batman. He's been in the Titans. He's been in the New Titans. He's been in Justice League. He's been in the Outsiders. He's been everywhere. He's like, Dick Grayson is actually you could make an argument that he is individually the most important character in DC Comics.
He's like the Ringo of the DC,
except with talent.
Kevin Bacon.
Right. But tell me I'm wrong. So the book is a great starting point for him. So that's why I kind of looked at it. I'm like, hey, it's a completely new chapter in his life. You know, you do kind of need to know who he is. You know, and I gave you that. Hey, here, you know, this is who he's been. In his
career. Is who Grayson.
You know, and I mean, hey, he was the original Robin. He's this and the other. He was even Batman for a little while. The whole 9 yards. You know. Hey, shh. But then you also look at the writer and the artist, and even there, you're like, this has every reason to be a great book. And one of the lines I put in the write-up for it is like, so you get you get the writing talent, the artist talent, you get all of the awesome that is, you know, Dick Grayson, combined with all the awesome of James Bond. How do you go wrong with that? I mean, it's a spy book. It's Dick Grayson as a spy. Like, how do you go wrong with that? So that was that book in there. And then lastly, we put in Kirkman's new piece, Outcast.
Okay.
And as I mentioned earlier, like, so Outcast, I picked up the ones for this box, and we found it the next day it sold out nationwide. So I'm sitting on 3 copies of this book that I know is starting to skyrocket on eBay, and I'm like, oh, but I bought it for the box. You know? So, but one of the things we did on that one is we actually bagged and boarded that one. And when we sipped it, because we're like, and we put a note in there saying, hey, this sold out. It's bagged and boarded for its protection. This will actually be valuable. You probably want to take care of it. Yeah. You know, and it's funny because one of the people who we sent the box to actually contacted me and said, can I open it? And I'm like, it's your book. You can do whatever you want with it. I bagged and boarded it so that you
just
can
get
protect
tweezers.
it. Just be careful with it.
Put the gloves on.
And if you don't care about the value of it, just read it. It's there for an enjoyment. That's the whole point of it. But it's
because it became a thing.
It became a thing. We're giving you the ability to say, hey, I don't want this getting destroyed in transit.
And if you want all of your comics in HeroChest bagged and boarded, that is an upsell option.
Yeah, that is also something we're going to offer for a very minimal fee. If you wanted all your books bagged and boarded, we'll happily do that. I think we're talking it's going to be like $2. I think is what we said. Something. So we're figuring that out. We're hammering out some of the end game.
Jeez, you got rated for them too. Damn.
Well, we had to figure because
Page 1, panel 1. Exploding.
Boom.
And again, I feel like I'm getting really sales pitchy on the whole thing, and that's not my idea. I mean, we're just talking comments and everything, but Outcast.
Shoot the shit, just a couple of fellas.
But it's weird. So when I wrote up for all three of those, I hadn't read any of them. And I actually, just as a practice,
and then you read them and you're like, oh no, they all suck.
Well, no. What I'm saying is, so I then went and read them all. I'd already sent them in, and then I read them after we shipped them out. And I specifically did it that way so that I wouldn't change my mind before I ship it. I was like, look, let's see if my model works. I truly believe these should all be good. Let me send them out. And once we mailed them, I read all of them. Now, obviously, I knew Hell on Earth was going to be good because it's a trade. It's I read all the originals.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to reread that, but. I read all the books, and I was like, actually, they pretty much all were what I expected from them. I expected Grayson to be slightly better than it was. It wasn't a bad book by any means. I just expected it to be a little more than it was.
Story-wise or art-wise?
Story-wise. And I think what it suffered from was, and many number ones do this, I think it suffered from too much preamble, not enough meat.
Pilotitis.
Yeah. It wasn't a bad book by any means. I'm not bashing the book at all. I'm still happy. Even if I looked at it and said, if I had read it before I put it, I'd still put it in. It's a good book. It's worth reading, and it certainly looks like it's going to be a good series.
And it's a good introduction for someone who might not know comics at all.
Right. I will say, of the three I chose, Outcast was the standout. Outcast was an amazing book, and I reckon if you haven't read it, go find it and read it. It is, and it was everything I would have expected from Kirkman.
I was going to say, surprisingly, Kirkman has a good...
Imagine that! Kirkman wrote something that didn't suck. Now, I fully admit, what I wanted to write up, my wife wouldn't let me, is when I was doing the write-ups, what I wanted to put for that book was Kirkman, duh. But she said, that would offend people who had no idea who he was. And I'm like, I'm offended that they don't know who he is.
Well, fuck them.
Yeah. Kirkman created Walking Dead... ... enough said.
Right. So in there, I say, from the newest piece from Robert Kirkman, creator of most famously known for Walking Dead, also creator of Invincible, Wolfman. I listed a bunch of other titles that he's known for, and I got to say, there's not a whole lot of writers I can say, hey, here's 6 titles they wrote. It's everything they've ever done, and they all are awesome.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a bomb, and I can't think of a single thing that I would say that was a bomb. He shouldn't have written that. Everything by Kirkman.
The closest thing to a bomb would be Thief of Thieves, and it's not really a bomb.
No, it's a good book. It's different for him, but it's still well done.
Have gone back down to indie level. They start off really high.
Yeah. That's true, but bomb isn't it's just not well done. You look at writers. There are writers that I love. Bendis is a great example. I love Bendis, but I can tell you there is stuff that I read of his and I go, "What the hell were you smoking that day?" Because it's not good.
Moon Knight.
Yeah, let's not discuss the atrocity they did on Moon Knight.
They had the sense to kill it after 12 issues.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they let him continue writing other things. I think that should have cost him a finger or two.
When was that Moon Knight series? Because I feel like I remember picking up
2.5 years ago.
Yeah, I think that was my first ever Moon Knight experience.
Where he was in L.A. and he's for some reason he thinks
all
he's
the heroes
Wolverine.
You want to be or something.
Yeah, it's just
like that.
I remember picking it up and rating it and being like, I remember hearing Moon Knight was a lot better than this, and just putting it down.
And the run before that, here's the thing. So Moon Knight hadn't been a character in years. He hadn't had a book in what, 20 years?
From the end of
15, 20 years? It's a long time.
Mark Spector Moon Knight, which was out in the early 90s and probably
was
got
it
cut.
early 90s? I want to say it was mid-80s.
No.
Oh, no, mid-80s was
As someone who just went through all of his Marvel Masterpiece trading cards from the 90s, he was on the cards until at least 93.
Okay. No, but you're right. I'm thinking of the...
94, 95.
Yeah, Mark Spector Moon Knight was later.
And then wasn't brought back until about 8 years later.
Right, and that was...
02,
and that
04?
was Finch's run,
Mm-hmm.
and that was amazing. You know, and it's funny because I got to meet him at that PhillyCon, which was the last PhillyCon Marvel or DC were actually at. But he was there. You know, Marvel had brought him to the show, and he's there, and it was really
sound
funny.
drop for eye rolling because I just did that.
But I got to meet him, and I flat out told him, I said, you know, I'm a giant Moon Knight fan, and I'm a like he's one of my top fandoms of all time. If for some reason I like really esoteric characters, Tom can tell you, like some of the stuff I've gone out of my way.
Really esoteric characters.
Thanks, douche.
Thank you.
Thanks for telling us, Tom.
Can we just turn his mic off?
This is actually the quietest I've ever heard Tom when there's a microphone in front of
I'm
him.
mad at you, man.
That's his stoic voice. Yeah, but I got to meet him, and it was really interesting because I told him, I said, you know, I want to thank you because I was really concerned that they wouldn't treat the character correctly. And one of the things he mentioned in the conversation we had was that, you know, he went back and reread everything Moon Knight before he started up this book. He'd always been a big fan, but when he got the okay to do the book, he went back and reread all of it, is what he said to me.
So he's not the director of the new Fantastic Four movie.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Oh, can we talk about that? Because I'll make a lot of fucking noise now.
Do you mind if we take a little break?
Just go for it, man.
Let's hear it.
Let's go.
Fuck this movie. I have never...
And we're done. Okay, I think that sums it up. Fuck this movie.
I've never been somebody to root against a movie because I think that's silly. You know, when you see certain, here's pictures from the set and this and that, like, it doesn't really tell you the whole story. They don't want it to.
Yeah, we all kind of thought the X-Men costumes looked ridiculous until we saw the movie.
Yeah. And that
No, I still think they do.
Well, and a lot.
I will say, I liked the first class uniforms. Those were awesome.
They were good.
Those weren't bad. But a lot of the comic garb doesn't look right. In
real life.
What we learned in the 70s is that spandex looks stupid on people.
Yeah, and you know the Running Man rule.
Fair enough.
Yeah, got that.
Well, that was like a friend of mine when I was in LA.
And in a strap.
Yes. No, a friend of mine in LA, as a joke for his cosplay at San Diego Comic-Con one day, wore a Spider-Man suit with Peter Parker's clothes over top of it to show that it's physically impossible for Peter Parker to be wearing his outfit underneath his short sleeve shirt.
It's a body glove term. It doesn't work.
He's like, but we buy into it because it's like, that makes sense. It's more exciting that it's right underneath his uniform.
Sure. You're ready for action.
I always figured he unrolled the sleeves and put gloves on or something.
I remember the Greatest American Hero, all he had to do was like roll the sleeves down, he'd had strength. He'd roll them back up and it went away. Silly. But
this movie...
It was awesome. This movie, fuck this movie. Let's not talk about
Wait, I gotta back you up, Tom. I gotta ask you a question. So who's more douchey? The idiot creating this movie or Marvel for saying fuck them and canceling the book?
Oh, we can talk about that too, because it's ridiculous, useless, and stupid. But let's talk about the shitty movie first. And I really can't. I hate calling it a shitty movie before it's even complete.
Set him up to go, right?
Before it's even, you know. I remember when the first picture from The Dark Knight came out of Joker, and it was a distorted. It's the camera shot when he's about to kill the guy in the Batman outfit.
Yeah.
And he gives himself an extreme close up, and he didn't look right, and that was the picture they released because it told you nothing.
Yeah.
People were like, this looks ridiculous. This is bullshit. The movie's gonna be terrible. And in my opinion, best thriller comic book movie of all time. Where Avengers is the best adventure comic book movie of all time.
I agree.
Well, that's up to opinion. That's
Because I gotta go Crow's better.
You can't disagree with my opinion.
Oh, I certainly can.
No, you can't tell me that that's not my opinion.
But I can disagree with it. You didn't say I
Absolutely.
can't tell you wrong. I said I can't disagree. I can disagree with you. In fact, I clearly do.
This is my time, Will.
Well, we can't dispute that it's Tom's opinion.
No, absolutely. And I didn't dispute
That's
it.
what he
I
said.
just said I
You the
disagree
first
with
hour. Okay.
By the way, this would if you come in to effing comics, on a Wednesday, anywhere between 4 and 5. This is pretty much what you get.
Yeah. I hope you don't mind the F word. Anyway.
With effing comics.
Yeah, it's not something I sell per se, but if I get paid by the fuck,
it's part of the experience.
Yeah, it's part of the ambiance. The ambiance.
It's part of the free promotional material.
So we're hearing little things coming out of the Fantastic Four movie. One thing I heard the other day was they will not be wearing uniforms. No costumes.
What is
Fuck
this
that.
movie?
You haven't heard about the Fantastic
No, I've
Four?
heard of it, but they're not going to be wearing costumes. Now they're all going to be
They will not
cripples.
call themselves
They're not going to have anything to do with
Fantastic
Marvel.
The woman playing Sue Storm said in an interview, well, she asked, should I read some of the comics so I know, where we're going with? Oh, don't worry. We're not basing the movie on any story that's ever appeared in the comics. Okay. And then Michael B. Jordan came out the other day, I think it was yesterday, and said, we're treating it not like they're superheroes, we're treating it like they're 4 kids who've been through an accident and have disabilities. Fuck you! How the fuck is that adventure or fun or a comic book movie? What the fuck is this shit? There's no answer. See, there's nothing you can possibly say.
Show me the car accident that turns you into a rock man.
No shit.
I mean, show you the car accident that sets you on fire, but you can't put that shit out by saying it.
I can see. I think Thing is the one that should
Flame
have
on.
it going. I'm inhuman, and what the fuck? You know, this sucks.
There's a compelling story to tell that
Johnny
element
Storm
of
was
it.
always like, "Look what I can do!
Yeah.
How much pussy am I gonna get out of this?" Which was already his mentality.
Which is why Chris Evans was pretty much the only properly casted person in there.
Yes, like a man, I'll say yes.
He was the only good thing in those first. They're
that
actually
chick
going to
was-
make us look fondly at the other Fantastic Four movies.
Let's be clear. I think we all have to agree. I hope we all agree that the best scene out of the other Fantastic Four movie was when he landed in the snowbank and turned it into
No hot tub.
a hot tub.
I liked when he snapped his fingers into the flames like this, all over.
Yes, that was also amusing.
All I'm going to hope for, and I hope for this every time, is that one day the Roger Corman one will get a DVD release.
The circus peanut thing and the kid who was the boy who could fly and the other 2 people. I don't know.
Oh, I'll watch it. But I will watch that shit.
Yeah, but you'll watch anything.
Did you see,
I watched Ishtar, and I have
and we didn't even
the
talk
79 Captain America.
We didn't even talk
Hey, those are
about
classic.
Johnny Storm and the interesting choice to hire an African American to play, an Aryan. And Johnny Storm is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed kid. Not the...
Here's the
Well,
part.
also, we're going to set him on fire. Shouldn't that strike a chord with some groups? Let's not set the black guy on fire.
That might hurt.
Maybe that's why they have disabilities now.
My concern with it, it's not like
Here's how they solved it. She's the outsider. The Storm dad is going to be a black guy. So Johnny Storm is actually his son. She's the adopted outsider.
So that's why she feels invisible already anyway.
I was like, God. I was like, ta-da.
totes my goats.
One, just give Brad Bird the Fantastic Four since he already
He already
did a good
did.
Fantastic
The
Four
best
movie.
Four movie that's been made so far is the fucking Incredibles.
Yep.
For finally getting a sequel.
That's fair.
Finally.
I give you that one.
No way.
It only took him, 2 decades?
I liked all the
All right,
Fantastic
so we
Four
talked
stuff.
about completely. Oh my God, what the fuck are you doing wrong here? Now let's go to Netflix. Who here's all happy about Netflix having not 1, not 2, not 3, but 5 Marvel stories coming out?
It's interesting because we can go right from the Michael B. Jordan stuff to is Rosario Dawson playing Elektra? Because they have not named who her
No,
character
she's
is.
in it, but they haven't said who she is.
I prefer hiring actors who look like the characters in the books. This isn't prose. We know what they look like. I am totally fine with her being Elektra.
Well, let's back that up. We all know how Elektra dresses, right?
You had me at back that up.
You got nothing to add.
You can't write this. You can't write this stuff.
It's Rosario Dawson.
In the Elektra outfit. Well, of course, there's no way Netflix is, because none of these outfits are ever the outfit from the comic book, because as we've already mentioned, none of these outfits look even remotely okay on a real person.
Right.
Caps.
They haven't changed
They
his,
made
though.
huge changes. They
They make sense, and
the
I like
first
the
Cap-
They make a joke about how ridiculous
kind of
it
sort of.
looks.
They, when he's doing the USO tour, he's wearing a uniform that's closest to what it looks like in the comics, and it looked weird. And I think they put my theory is they put that in to go, really? You want a movie with this? Because we're going to use the thing with leather. Because it's a little more practical for what he's doing. It makes a little more sense. You can't put him in cloth. It's always supposed to have been chainmail. That's really unrealistic. For a guy
scale
who-
mail, actually, but actually it depends on which era. There have been eras supposed to be scale mail, areas supposed to be chain mail. So I think
As the
it
only
looked,
person in the room who knows anything about armor, I'll defer to Will.
but I've seen a version of that
Where did you
armor
come
done
from
at
before
scale.
this podcast?
Teaching historical fencing.
Right. Moving forward.
So, but
But he's wearing a bicycle helmet that's painted to look like the headpiece to the Captain America suit.
and that would still be better than some of the '70s things.
That was the 70s.
That was the 70s helmet.
With the Captain America bike.
Yeah.
You know, which he was actually doing at the time in the comics. He was kind of biking across America.
real influenced by Easy Rider at that point in the Captain America
weed, Dennis Hopper, and Cap.
We're in backcountry. I don't know, but I'm really happy about it. I mean, I'm looking at some of the stuff, and and I don't expect any of the costumes to be what we see in the comic. I just don't. Except Luke Cage. I want the yellow disco shirt and the tiara. I'm sorry, I want it. Like, it's just got to be there. I mean, he hasn't worn it in 20 years, but I don't care. At least they have to have a joke about it. It has to be like, show it in the closet or something.
Have they casted?
I hope it's a white guy.
Just to say, yeah.
Why can't it be a white guy? What the hell?
I want Samuel L. Jackson to play Luke Cage.
Isn't he like 80 now?
And he's already he already is somebody.
Okay, so is Chris Evans. I want Luke Cage to say motherfucker.
Mr. Falcon.
Well, actually, here's I forget the guy's name.
Motherfucker.
Who was the guy who did all of the weird?
I use that all the time, and no one knows what I'm talking about.
No, the other guy who did, and now there's a diamond. All the Old Spice commercials.
Old Spice ones,
yeah. He was actually bucking to play Luke Cage for years. Like, he was trying to get that. He was trying to get someone to do a movie for him to play the role. And actually, strangely enough, I think if you put on maybe 10 pounds of muscle, he could do it. Like, I think he would do the job. I don't think it's him.
Terry Crews is already there physically, but do you know what his job is starting this fall? Your new host of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Really?
Really?
I'll watch the shit out of that.
That is.
Is he not going to be on? What's his show? Brooklyn Nine-Nine anymore?
I think
because that show, by the way, is holy shit funny.
Especially because of Terry Crews.
Yes,
Terry Crews steals the show.
Right, I don't watch. I was telling someone to watch it, and he's like, "Oh, but I don't like the main guy. I don't like the main actor." I'm like,
at the same time, there is.
It's completely feasible.
Yeah.
But if someone was saying, "Oh, I don't like," I don't like.
If you got rid of Terry Crews, I probably wouldn't watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
You watch that show for Terry Crews.
We don't all hate Andy Samberg on the same level as you.
Fucking funny.
This would be one of the people that I was saying you don't watch it for.
Did you guys watch The Awesomes?
I'm not familiar with that one.
What is that?
It's a Hulu original superhero team show.
I'll have to go check that
Cartoon.
out. Any good at all?
It's a cartoon.
Yeah, they put out the whole series already, or the whole first season. It was pretty good.
Let's check it out.
I think it was Andy Samberg though. It was either him or one of the other SNL guys who wasn't that. Yeah, it was him.
See, what you guys can't see because we're on audio is that he actually turns 2 shades red when you say the name. Here, watch. I want to see if it happens again. Andy Samberg.
Fuck you.
Andy Samberg. Andy Samberg. Like he's almost matching the Human Torch when he's on fire now. It's pretty funny.
We should recast it as Tom Levy.
Where's Wallace?
The other really good Hulu show was that Deadbeat show. If you watched that,
Deadbeat.
Yeah, it was starring Tyler Labine. If you ever saw the horror comedy Tucker and Dale versus Evil?
No, I'm supposed to.
Funny ass movie.
Yeah,
and it's getting a sequel.
The bigger fellow of the two.
Yeah, he's very funny actually.
The one who's basically when they're like, "Well, we can't afford Jack Black."
Fair enough.
He plays a guy who is a psychic and can speak to ghosts, but he's also a stoner, and he really just exercises houses to get enough money to buy weed off of his buddy so he can get high that night. And it's just kind of a monster of the day.
Miles from Lost,
essentially. But the situation, like the one episode was a ghost couldn't move on until he lost his virginity. And he's like, all right, no problem. He's like, when I was sent off to war, this was the girl that I was in love with. And he's like, all right, cool. And he's like, I'll meet her. You can possess my body. I'll bang her. You'll lose your virginity. You're good to go. And then he shows up and the woman's 80 and he's like, oh, that war.
Right, you're dead. And a ghost. And it's been time.
And there's just every situation's like
away
that.
the dust and the cobwebs.
Pretty much.
Did you watch Misfits?
I love that
saw
show,
the
man.
first 2 episodes and I liked it, and then I just never.
Well,
got
in the
around to
second
watching
episode,
the
that
rest.
basically happens
Yeah.
Yes.
That's yeah.
with Nathan, and it turns out she's an old lady, and that's her power to be young.
So if we're spitting rumors, The Rock is Shazam.
See, here's the thing. I don't know.
He should be Black Adam.
My understanding is he is Black Adam.
Black Adam.
He looks exactly like Black Adam.
So here's the thing, though. Everyone's jumping.
That's
Jumping
racist,
to I was gonna
by
say
the way.
we're jumping.
They haven't
to
said
conclusions.
Shazam, and actually, the first time he
African-American
ever
Adam?
hinted,
Egyptian
like,
Adam.
Rock hinted about it months and months and months ago. His hints were much more clear that he was playing a bad guy, not a good guy. So to me, I think he's playing Black Adam.
reconsidered.
It just doesn't make sense for him to be Billy.
It can make some sense. Somebody suggested this to me earlier today.
He doesn't like to play bad guys though anymore.
Someone suggested this to me earlier today that The Rock has his personality as a funny pro wrestler. A lot of pro wrestlers are kind of man children.
Yeah.
Well, also he's been in a bunch
Batson
of kid movies.
Is a man child.
Well, yeah.
So he's still.
The Rock's
when he
done a bunch of
turns
kid
into
movies,
Shazam.
so that's like his thing.
So
now.
The Rock's personality, The Rock's sense of humor, being kind of childish, could fit that character. I think as a look, he's more of a Egyptian Adam, a Black Adam, if you will.
But even I'm kind of a new wrestling fan.
Yes.
And I did.
Yes, I do know that.
I was not aware that he was such a heel for
Rock.
like.
He was one of the best heels in the history of heels.
Everyone loved The Rock so much that I just assumed that he was a good guy, and then I'm watching all these
Jericho's
specials.
Style of heel though.
No. So
fucking
wait.
funny and so entertaining.
Well, hold on.
You just want them to turn every time.
So like, what do you think about The Rock?
I like him.
It doesn't matter what you think. Sorry,
I had to let you allow it. I had to say something.
Is that Will and Dwayne Johnson?
No, that's Chris Jericho, and I don't know who else is there.
It doesn't matter. It's just Jericho, who was like 10 feet away from me at the Queen concert the other day. Like, I looked up and I'm like, I was taking a picture of this concert, and I'm like,
Chris Jericho.
I'm scanning to follow the singer, and I'm like, wait, what? And I scan back, and I don't put the camera down to look back. I actually scan back with the camera. I'm like, that's Chris Jericho. Click.
I did the exact same thing at New York Comic Con last year.
He was really nice,
Paul F.
actually, after the
Tompkins.
concert.
Nice.
I was taking a picture of Archaea or Archaea. I have no idea how to pronounce that. Of their
Archaea?
Of their artwork, and at the bottom of the frame, it was 4 guys right in front of me that were signing. I was like, that guy looks like Paul F. Holy shit, that's Paul F. Tompkins. And whatever he was selling, I bought.
Because you have to.
You have to.
Iced
you gotta get
tea.
him to sign
He
it.
was selling iced tea.
Wait,
and
did
chips.
you talk to him?
I did.
Did you talk to him about your favorite stand-up special?
I did.
Related to
Well,
him?
all I said was, your half hour. It's called Driven to Drink. I said, I've been a big fan ever since I saw Driven to Drink. He was like, oh, that's great. I'm from Philly too. He's like, oh, that's great. You ever go to Dirty Frank's? I'm like, no.
I used to hang out at Dirty Frank's. I used
That
to
makes
friend of
complete sense.
my buddy Gooder, who you've met a few times. Went to college with. He used to live like a block and a half from Dirty Frank's for years.
Wow.
So when we'd ever go to visit, we'd be like, all right, we're going to Dirty Frank's. I'm like, all right.
I have $1.50. Let's go get shitty.
Good Guinness, stupid cheap. You win.
My favorite quote about drinking at Dirty Frank's in Driven to Drink is, if you've never had Old Crow, which is some whiskey that they have there,
Yes.
if you've never had Old Crow, then you've never accidentally sprayed hairspray in your mouth.
That's fair.
Wait, but it's supposed to be whiskey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
it's just horrible.
Old
Crow
His follow-up
is-
line is,
yeah.
there's a reason why it's the cheapest shot at a cheap bar.
It's not good.
It ain't good.
I have to try to track that down because it sounds like such an interesting stand-up special every time you tell me about it.
And he looks very, very different. He's probably about 50 pounds heavier, and he doesn't have a mustache. He's wearing a suit and a dress shirt. But
This wasn't even Paul F. Tompkins. It's a guy that just went with it with Tom.
I'm thinking. I'm imagining Paul F. Tompkins when he just played the club show announcer on the Tenacious D TV
Right.
show for like 4 episodes.
And it was just before that, or during that, and it was when he was on Mr. Show.
yeah,
Yeah.
because the Tenacious D show was like the little secret bonus episode after every couple Mr. shows or something like that, because it was all Paul F. Tompkins, David Cross was in an episode, Bob Odenkirk was in an episode, Jack Black was like a cast member of Mr. Show at the
It
time.
was,
They always found a way to
look at a copy of Dare. Oh, Brian Posehn.
Is he writing that now?
He's writing Deadpool. He's been writing it since.
I get out of town.
Him and some Irish guy.
I haven't noticed.
Talk about
that.
an overused character.
Deadpool.
I'm so tired of Deadpool.
Oh, who's this Deadpool you're talking about?
Well, he'll be in the box. You'll be introduced to him.
No, he won't.
You've already met
He
him.
said the idea of Brian Posehn writing Deadpool I
Yeah.
like. I don't think I've read any of the ones that he wrote yet. But,
Actually, they're
but
good.
putting a comedian behind Deadpool is exactly what you
But
should
here-
be doing.
He was
But
at
he-
Helium
well,
right after issue 3 came
I
out.
don't know that that's
So
true.
I brought a bunch with me to have him sign.
No
I gotta
way.
back up to that statement. That actually is why I'm so fed up with Deadpool, because once upon a time, Deadpool was actually, you should sort of, he's crazy, but you sort of have to take him seriously because
he
he's
was
dangerous
Deadpool. Yeah.
and good at what he does. And now he's a giant joke.
He's a cartoon
He's a
character.
cartoon character. You know, and some of it's funny. Like, I fully admit, it's funny. Like, the guy writing it, you're right, he's funny. And the book is amusing. I still read it. But I no longer take Deadpool seriously at all.
I get the vibe from Deadpool, because, again, I'm a person coming into comics within the last, 6 years. So, I know.
Oh,
funny,
he's been a joke since you came in?
Yeah, I've known joke Deadpool. But one day, I think Tom had gotten a shipment, not a shipment, but he had bought in a collection off of somebody, and there was some Howard. Yes, we'll skip over that. And he bought some Howard the Duck, and I went, I'll read that for shits and giggles. And I read it and thought, this feels like a Deadpool comic. He's super aware that he's a comic book character when no one else gets it. I'm like, I wonder if they were just like, shit. Fuck.
And now it's at the point where this version of Deadpool is actually kind of influential because Harley Quinn is now DC's Deadpool.
Yes, kind of.
Really?
Yeah, a little bit.
Crazy, kind of talking, breaking the fourth wall, that stuff.
Didn't Harley Quinn start in that cartoon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love it.
Fourth wall breaking only works in small doses. You can't build
Saved
a whole
by the Bell.
character around it.
Saved by the Bell.
Timeout.
Play your giant cell phone.
The
My bag phone.
it's funny. I was just reading something that was talking about the powers of different characters, and they actually
it's
say
one of his powers.
that one of Deadpool's powers is his quote medium awareness. And it's because they're making a joke on cosmic awareness from some of the other from Silver Surfer and a couple other people, but they're basically it's why he knows that he's in a comic book and can break the fourth wall.
Which is why the Watcher died. No. It's not.
Well, and that was I remember Crack.com has a great series of videos that I love called After Hours, where it's just a bunch of the writers shooting the shit about a different topic. And the one was, what would be the coolest power to have? And to throw it back to what Tom was saying, they picked Timeout from Saved by the Bell. And their whole explanation was, think about it, you think that that's just for cool storytelling, but how many episodes did Zach time out and then shift people around that changed the course of that episode?
He warped reality.
He can actually control reality.
They use that in the Awesomes.
If only they could control.
Cha-ching, I'm getting paid by them. I don't know. That was the main character's only power, and throughout the entire series, they're like, he doesn't even have any powers. But he had this time freezing. He literally only used it to his advantage twice in the entire series, and the whole time I'm like, if you could freeze time, you do things during that time that you could not have done. And all he ever did was stand around ruminating okay, this is the situation. What do I need to do? And then he'd start time and do it. No, you do it while time's frozen, stupid.
Do you know who would get that power if we all got powers? Schraub.
Oh, absolutely. And
He already has it, and we just don't know.
that's maybe why he's so quick-witted.
Yeah.
Someone says something and he's like, time out. Okay.
He goes right, he does the first draft to rewrite.
He Googles something clever.
He allows a comedian back into time, hey, can you do a rewrite?
What would you say if he just said this?
Do you need
He
context?
gets Pat Oswald in the mix.
All right, time in. Hey.
Oh, another winner from Shropshire.
He just interrupted the latest episode. I was he had went out. He's like, "Oh, I'm going out. I'll be gone for a while." For me, a while is a couple hours. So here we are 20 minutes later, and I'm interviewing a guest through Skype. And I'm like, well, Strop's gone for a while. I don't need to close the door or anything.
Or wear pants.
Well, no, the pants were on.
Skyping.
But I was Skyping with him, and in the middle of the episode, you hear him coming and going, Matt! Matt!
Sorry, we gotta cut the interview. My dad's home. I
Matt, get me a beer!
And I left my bike in the driveway, so I'll be right back after these messages.
So for those the 3 or 4 listeners that heard that, that's what happened.
That's awesome.
You!
I told him when I was done, well, you're...
Couldn't have worse. You could have walked in and known you were on the mic and been like, Matt, I got your weed!
I was like, you're a featured player on this week's episode.
Matt, the hooker can't make change.
And you gotta pay for the cab, which is idling and ran over your bike in the driveway.
Told you not to leave it there.
So on that note, if people want to become... people want to take their hookers and weed money and put it to a good cause, Where's the best way for them to donate to HeroChest?
All right, so let's bring it actually back around to HeroChest. Well, there's, I mean, we have a Kickstarter going right now. It's another
24 days.
24 days as of here. I'm not sure how long.
Probably next week. So,
Okay, so you're gonna
24
be-
minus 7.
Yeah. There you go.
17.
There you go.
Can't do the alphabet or math.
Jesus. Why you gotta be such a douche knuckle?
Because I used to.
Because I used to work with them.
All right, fair enough. All right, I'm just saying he didn't deserve it. I'm just saying you're mean.
It totally did. Guys.
So you can go to
That's so
Kickstarter
adorable.
and just put in HeroChest. 2 words, HeroChest. We'll come up. That's a Kickstarter. It's the only way to get the
Sword
first.
Power Girl. One of those will come up.
Also true, but no. HeroChest to come up. It's actually the only way to get the first 3 months of boxes is through the Kickstarter.
Okay.
And there, the prices. Our margins are pretty tight. So I mean, there is a slight price break going through the Kickstarter, but it's also the other items you can get. There'll be some exclusive. Some exclusive options at the higher end pledges. We actually even have a thing we're calling the Sidekick program. Anyone in the Sidekick program is actually going to be. Every month you're going to get a survey about your box, just so we can always have feedback. But the Sidekick program is going to actually have its own separate survey and a discussion list where they can go in and talk about things and we can get ideas. So that group of people will be the primary source of, hey, how do we make it better? And we're always going to keep that running. And as long as you're a subscriber, if you are on the Sidekick team, as long as you maintain your subscription, you will maintain being on that team.
Okay.
We'll have some
level.
Huh?
What about the forever level?
Oh yeah, we actually have a very limited number, and it's a little pricey, but we have a limited number that if you back at this level, you will get every box we ever put out for as long as the company exists. So I mean. If obviously the company lasts a year, that's not the greatest deal in the world. But if a company lasts 5 years, you're way ahead.
Yeah.
And part of also that is part of that will also be any piece of promotional material we ever generate, you will also get. So like if we make a staff shirt for a con, you'll get one. If we make posters for San Diego Comic-Con, you'll get one. Every piece of promotion we ever create, you will get.
I want a bobblehead of us.
Could happen. Probably more likely one of those little vinyl dudes.
Funko Pop.
Yeah, Funko. Oh,
I
there.
was with the final.
My brother has the biggest chub for Funko Pop. It's so weird.
Which brother?
He made all the Power Rangers.
Which brother?
Seth.
You say that like, come on, duh.
Such defeat.
Well, no, I didn't. It wasn't defeat. It was because.
So why would you even ask that question? Isn't it
Tom
obvious?
knew it was Seth.
No, he didn't.
Oh yeah, well it was Seth. Yeah,
I had 2 suspects.
and Funko Pop only officially put out like 2 of the Power Rangers, so Seth bought a bunch of them
Custom.
and customed them into the whole team, and they actually look really freaking awesome.
But so you can go to the Kickstarter. We also we're on Facebook again. Just go put in HeroChest will come up. We have our own website. There are blog posts on there. We're trying to keep a lot of material going on about what's going on with the company, things like that. We have we have a couple articles up there about the beta box we did and things like that. We actually my wife actually just wrote her take on Batman Day. And I thought that was actually really interesting because like I said, she's kind of that perspective of
She's
it's
never
hard for
heard
me
of
to look
Batman.
at like, hey,
There's
how
not
does
enough mice in this.
yeah, right. No, she actually, it was really interesting. Like while she's writing it, she came back to me. She's like, "Wow, I would never guess that the 2 creators."
Has Peterson ever written Batman?
That'd be funny.
That'd be great.
But
Turtles covers though.
one of the things she came back with that she thought was really interesting because she, this is how she is. She researches what she's going to write about, and she came back. She's like, "Were they really in their early 20s when they created Batman?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I would never have guessed that. These were really young guys who created now one of arguably the most iconic superhero of our day. The only person I would say is even close to that is Superman. Yeah. You're like people who've never read a comic in their life, they know who Batman is. You can't. I mean, can you think of how many people can you really say that about? Like, how many people would you say if I said this person and someone went, "Who?" would you be genuinely stunned?
Yeah.
Although we have a running joke inside the people group I teach fencing to. We were talking about Captain America a couple years ago, and one of my students' wives went, "Captain who?" And everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at her. And
Nothing but swords hitting the ground.
right, and just looked at her like, "What? You're kidding, right?" And just like, we refer to her as the cultural wasteland because these sort of things just sort of bounce off of her. She doesn't absorb the cultural.
To be fair, she's a
zeitgeist.
Russian mail order bride.
No, that's the worst part. She's not.
Captain Comrades?
Sputnik. But and it's funny because one of the joke things she has, like if you were to meet her today, she has a little Captain America keychain hanging off of her purse because
yeah, you guys were about to crucify her.
Yeah.
Just got to get the paraphernalia now.
And a shield.
Pretty much. But no, we just mocked her. We didn't, Yeah. But I
Just
mean,
a
we do
little
that
mockery. Stoned her a little bit.
Crushed her emotionally. It's not like we fucking hurt her.
Come on, those emotions grow back, right?
Light brazing. Emotions grow back.
But so yeah, there's multiple ways to follow us, and obviously we're always paying attention to our Facebook feeds or really any of the communication portions. So if people have questions, we're happy to answer them. In fact, if people have
Carrier
feedback,
pigeon.
we'd love to hear it. We're obviously one of the things we're playing around with an idea right now is because we do know that the price point is higher than a lot of the subscription boxes. We're actually playing around with the idea of making a tier that is just the comics and none of the extra stuff, and having it at a lower price point. So maybe it's a little easier for people to jump in.
The 3 comics and the...
In a trade, but none of the toys at all. And we're not sure what that price point would be yet. We actually have to do the math on that. But that's one of the things we're playing with the idea from some of the feedback we've gotten. And that's one of the other things I just kind of jumping back to something you said earlier about like other things. We already know that one of the things we want to back one of our stretch goals will be if we get to that point is actually also starting a secondary box for kids. And have a smaller, so it's all kids comics and stuff like that. We're hoping we get to that point where we love to have the problem of figuring that out.
Yeah.
So, but it's one of the things we also want to do is because I think, I started reading comics when I was 8 years old. I was really young, and it fostered a love of reading in me that, it stayed to me to this day. And it's not just comics. I mean, I'm an avid reader. I read voraciously, and it's all because of comics, and it's funny because I grew up in a generation where comics
will rot your brain.
Yeah, they'll rot your brain or horrible like that. And I'm like, everyone I know who read comics when we were kids are all
readers and nerds.
Like they're all, that's who they are. So I always thought it was funny is that like my grandmother and my grandmother actually just a quick story. Everyone here's comic collectors, so they'll feel my pain. My mother, when I was really young and really first got into comics, actually had a friend who worked for Marvel Comics, and he used to send boxes and boxes of comics to me through my mother, and I had some really awesome books when I was young, and I started
first HeroChests.
And when I started really getting into the collecting side of it, he thought it was kind of, for a kid that young to really actually take care of the books and bag and board and do all that stuff. He started sending me some really valuable, rare books, like just to have for my birthday or presents, stuff like that. So I had like an X-Men #1. Things like I had some really valuable books in this collection, but for a while we lived with my grandparents, and
She didn't lie in the birdcage, did she?
no, it's not quite that bad, but so at one point we moved out of there and we had to leave some stuff there because of where we moved. It was a smaller apartment, and but my grandmother's house has this giant attic, so we just put our stuff in the attic. Figure, okay, well, we know that the apartment's only going to be for a certain amount of time because we're waiting for this house to be ready for us to move into. And in the time frame while we were in the apartment, my grandmother decided, because they were quote unquote the devil's toys, and wish I were kidding, threw them all out. We figured out my mother lost her mind because my mother is actually, I had the weirdest mom on the planet. Like she like no, it's funny.
It's like the backwaycompliment.com.
Sort of, no, this is the same woman who a couple years after that heard about D&D. Like this, get me wrong, I'm old, so this is back when a D&D was like these little pamphlet-sized books. There was hardcover, it was,
She saw some TV movie starring that
no,
Tom
way
Hanks
before
fellow.
that. Way before that. Like like when it was chainmail. She heard about D&D, and her reaction wasn't, "Oh my God, that's horrible," whatever. My mother's reaction was, "That's really awesome. That will make it'll help make a child more imaginative." And she went out and found it and bought it and gave it to me and said, "Here, I think you would really like this. Read it." And I started, I basically infected my little group of friends with, "Hey, we should do this."
Weren't we talking about doing that?
Yeah, I've been trying. I'm gonna still try to get you involved in a game soon.
Oh, you're doing it already.
Yeah.
But
Already working towards that.
so, but my mom figured out, like,
I know a place
just to
you can
kind of
hold
rub it in. She actually went and figured out, like, 'cause she knew roughly some of the stuff that was in there because it came through her to me, so she knew what I was getting. And she basically said, "Hey, here's the value of what you threw out." And my grandma was like, "There's no possible way." Blah, blah. She just refused to believe. Years later, she brought it up to me, like, "Oh yeah, I can't believe you're still reading those, those things. They'll rot your brain." Blah blah. I said, "Look, you don't have a right to ever talk to me about this ever." She said, "Why?" I said, "Because you owe me thousands and thousands of dollars." And she's like, "What?" And I pulled out, and I happened to have it with me. I actually had my
Comics price guide.
my price guide. And I said, "So here's some of the stuff that was in that box that you threw out. Let me just show you what they're worth today." And she's looking at it in the official price guide for these things. It completely that's there's no way.
You printed this yourself for this occasion.
Yes, I printed up my own giant book.
Robert M. Overstreet is an alias of
Lie to
mine.
you, Grandma. But yeah, so like I said, I've been in the comics for a really long time, and one of the reasons we want to kind of push, we're hoping to get to a point where we can also do the kids boxes because, I mean, there's a lot of great stuff out there. There's the comic industry has sort of grown up with us. Like the average comic is a much higher reading level than it was when I was a kid. All comics were written for like kids when I was a kid. That's not really true anymore.
A lot of exposition.
But there are still good kids comics today. And I'd like to be able to get to a point where we can do that. Is put the kids box out as well.
Absolutely. And the website is HeroChest.com.
Yes, it is.
All right. Thank you guys for joining me on this episode. Go and check out HeroChest.com. Make sure you look up their Kickstarter and donate. And when you have some time, if you're in the area, you should swing by Effin Comics. And is there an online store for Effin Comics, Tom?
417 Beaumont Road, Drexel, PA 19026, 610-733-7615. Right now, if you go to effincomics.com, it's just a placeholder, but I'm building it as we speak.
All right. Thank you.
You want to tell everybody who we were?
Cool
Look, your
stuff.
name's Matt Kelly. My name's
Oh,
Tom Levy. This is Will Tromlin, and that is Moses McManaman.